Hey, this is DJ. I'm going to be showing you how you can digitally remaster your videos. I do this specifically for Destiny, but this will work for essentially any type of video. First thing you're going to need is a video. I use to record Destiny Remastered an Xbox One X with a USB card using their game capture feature. Other things you'll need is a PC, preferably Windows if you can, if you have one. Having an RTX 3000 series card is recommended, as these programs that I use do benefit from them. But first, the Spark Notes version, you're going to take your clip. You can do it straight, but I like to edit them down to cut out all the extra loading that doesn't really need to be shown on like a YouTube video or anything. Then I will throw it into the Topaz AI enhancer to scale up the original 1080p to 4K with decent results. And then I use the Rife flow frames interpreter to do interpolation to bring it from the original 29.97 or 30 FPS to 60 FPS. Then I will export it and then upload it to YouTube. So we'll start with our clip. We'll do something easy like editing Shadow of Twilight, one of the shortest missions in Destiny. The timeline, it's pretty basic. You're just cutting out things that don't need to be there. I have the end card, easy. And then we can just export. Or I can take this and then render it out. You don't have to use DaVinci. You can use whatever. Settings also don't matter, but I do suggest MP4. If you have H.265 encoding, then you can use that. If you don't have the HVEC if you're using Windows, then you're only going to be able to view H.264. And then I have NVIDIA GPU enhanced GPU encoding, which is for the studio version of yourself. You could do at either best or lower if you want even smaller file size, but you're going to be exporting at the native resolution, which is 1080p, 1920 by 1080, and then the native frame rate. You don't want to put it to 60 while you're editing the original clip, because then flow frames is not going to be able to interpolate that correctly. You're going to have blank frames in between each. So upload it like this, and then you're going to get something similar to Shadows of Twilight. Here we go. Next step is to toss in the Shadows of Twilight into the Topaz Enhance AI. There is, if on their website, a free 2-week version trial that basically works the same as the paid version. But the paid version, the regular price is $300, but that's pretty steep. They usually drop it down to about $100, and then it gives you the program and then updates for a year. All right, so pretty easy. Do this. Okay, there we go. So when you're going to be choosing an AI model, the thing you want to look out for is the low, medium, and high presets. The main difference is the higher the preset, the less the AI will try to enhance the image. So it's kind of reversed. If you have a low image quality, it's going to work overtime to try to sharpen and enhance details. The higher you set it, generally for higher quality images and video, the less it's going to try to enhance it. For Destiny, it's a happy medium. It's not quite as high. So if I was doing 4K, like trying to do Destiny 2 upscaling, I might want to do high quality since it's already much higher fidelity. Or if you only have PS3 or Xbox 360 Destiny 1, you might want to do low quality so that you can have an increased sharpness. Although the difference is the lower quality is going to bring out and try to add in extra detail that wasn't there, and it can look a bit odd. like an over sharpened image. So that's one thing to consider. You're not going to use interlaced. Progressive is fine. High compression, it's just the general stuff. That's the most amount of video artifacting. It's just compression. Artemis, medium quality preset. Scaling it up to 200% of 1080p, which is 4K. You don't have to do this. You can also do 100%, which will make it look better 1080p quality. Or you can also downscale. But the biggest thing, now the issue is doing 8K. One, it doesn't prefer it on MP4, which is what we're going to be exporting. And then additionally, if you're scaling from 1080p to 8K, that's 16 times the resolution, where already 4K is 4 times the resolution. There's going to be very little difference, especially on YouTube, where it has to compress the file even further. You're likely to see little to no increase in quality at all. You will see an increase from 1080p to 4K because YouTube uses the VP9 encoder for 4K footage. But other than wanting to waste time rendering, try to stay away from 8K unless you already have native 4K footage. So we're going to just 4K this out, and you'll soon see, even with an RTX 3070, this 2.5 minute video will take about half-ish hour to render in. And if we do a little zoom in, you can already see that the clouds a little bit sharper, especially here. You can see it's much smoother, where here it's the original resolution. So that is a few things that are definitely nice. Let me see if I can. Also on the text, you can see this is actually upscaling the image. I'm not just exporting it into 4K. You can see that there's a bit of artifacting, but that usually gets taken out at the export, and it looks pretty good far away. But you can see there it is actually upscaling in using algorithms to generate the higher fidelity image. All right, well, I'm going to cancel that because I've already pre-rendered it here. Where is Shadows at Twilight? This is the normal one. Got a whole video. It's the one thing I have noticed is the darks are very dark, where it takes the game is very kind of brightish. One thing about the settings is that it darkens some of the areas. So I guess it adds a little bit of atmosphere, but that's another thing. When you're upscaling, it tends to wash out some of the darks. But other than that, the next process is doing the interpolation. So we got it, it's at 4K. We check the settings, properties, details, 3840 by 2160. It increased the data rate as well, since it's only when you export it from Topaz AI and Video Enhance, it's only in H.264, so it's going to have a higher data rate than H.265. We're going to be taking this and turning it into 60 FPS. So basic settings, I am using the Rife 1.35 flow frames interpreter. Basics things, I'm using, since I have a RTX 3000 series, I'm using the CUDA engine, so it renders faster. This is the Patreon release. It'll eventually be released in the future, but you don't need this. The biggest thing is going to be the time. If the newer version you have, the less time it's going to take, and then it's also going to look slightly better. That's one thing I've noticed, is the quality has improved. So if we go over here to this, I'm going to output it to my Destiny Remaster folder. And then a few things to look at that I've changed for at least the encoding settings. It's going to come out here to application. Make sure that your maximum video input size, if you're exporting from Topaz to 4K, that it's 2160, because that is the height of 4K video. Then encoding, I am also using NVIDIA NVENC. If you don't have an NVIDIA card, this won't be here. You'll only have these options. If you can, do H.265, better compression. And then if you can, NVENC makes it render much faster. For the MP4 quality, I think that normally it's at like 24. I find that a lossy compression takes out too much of the quality, so I dropped this down to 18. You can also do VP9, which also works, but it's not quite as advanced as H.265. Cool. And then we can interpolate it. It doesn't take nearly as much time as the Topaz Enhance AI. That's why we do that one first, because when you do the Video Enhance AI and after you're doing the interpolation, you're just doubling the workload. So you're going from 30 FPS to 60, so now it has to render twice as many frames. Versus this, where it's a bit of a different process. Yes, it has 4 times the resolution. From testing, it doesn't not take that much longer. So if you can, try to do your AI first, or the upscaling, then do the interpolation. This is what I found to be the fastest. All right, and here we are, almost 13 minutes later. It is finished compiling and interpolating. We have the file right here. And it's going to be, you can see 266 megabytes. If we go back to here, the original size, it's going to be about, it's saying 80. Is that what it's saying? Yeah, 80 megabytes. And then we go to 4K upscale here. 400. So that's another thing, is if you're doing H.265, you're going to have a much higher compression rate, and while the quality will stay mostly the same. And that's going to be something, if you're going to be uploading it, that'll definitely help with if you have a slower computer. But that's just something to note. The actual quality has increased, so we got 266 from the original 80-ish. From the, if you watch the comparison video, it's much easier to see the difference between the higher resolution versus the also lower FPS. Of course, there is a reason why I do record without the HUD, mostly because the HUD elements can cause artifacting, but that is just something specific to Destiny. Well, I want to thank you for watching. Hopefully this has been informative, and maybe see you in a bit.